Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our in-depth international affairs analysis on Headpost. Before we begin, please take a second to hit the like button, share this video, and subscribe to the channel. Your support gives the Headpost team the motivation to continue bringing you the most multi-dimensional and sharpest perspectives every day. Now, let us dive deep into the heart of the world's most critical hotspots. Let's look back to a few days ago, when President Trump appeared before the media with an air of immense pride. He used a cinematic phrase to describe his military campaign, Operation Epic Fury. In an emotional speech, he asserted that America had won this life and death gamble within the very first hour. He proudly declared that Iran's air force and radar defense systems had been completely wiped out, and the power structure in Tehran had been dismantled. But if we weigh those claims on the scales of military logic and geopolitics, a question emerges simple yet razor sharp. If you have truly won, why haven't you declared the end of the campaign and withdrawn your troops? The way strategic planners in Washington answer this question seems to resemble a script from a Netflix series. Their argument is, America won the opening battle, but they cannot leave halfway. They must stay to finish the job, ensuring that the seeds of resistance cannot sprout again in a few years. In a short span of time, Mr. Trump has offered at least 3 different answers regarding a withdrawal timeline. First, he said the campaign was ahead of schedule. Then he hinted at an imminent conclusion. And most recently, he asserted that the US would be the sole party to decide when it ends. This contradiction exposes a stark reality. The Washington administration appears to lack a clear exit strategy. This American ambiguity becomes even more jarring when contrasted with the cold statements from their closest ally, Israel. In total opposition to Mr. Trump's nearing the end tone, high-ranking officials of the Israel Defense Forces (IDF) have projected a long-term war. They assert that the network of targets to be destroyed in Iran remains vast, and Israel is prepared for a prolonged operational roadmap. This divergence in messaging between Washington and Tel Aviv suggests that while they may share an enemy, their definitions of final victory are worlds apart. And while politicians are busy with declarations, the money-burning machine called war continues to operate at full throttle. Independent statistical reports have highlighted a figure that would make any financial planner shudder. In just the first 6 days of the campaign, the Pentagon has spent a staggering budget of $11.3 billion. Of that, the cost for smart munitions, interceptor missiles, and bunker buster bombs in the first 2 days alone devoured $5.6 billion. On average, every single day. American taxpayers are footing a bill of over $1 billion to maintain the operational pace of carrier strike groups and drone fleets. Beyond the economic toll, human losses have also begun to surface. Despite having the world's most sophisticated defense systems, Washington has had to confirm the deaths of 7 service members with over 140 others wounded. So in exchange for such an exorbitant price, what core objective has the United States actually achieved? Ladies and gentlemen, let's look straight at the truth. The ultimate goal of this campaign, though not officially declared in legal documents, is widely understood as an attempt at regime change in Tehran. The West expected that devastating airstrikes would break the government's will, incite an internal uprising, or trigger a military coup to collapse the entire theocratic structure of the Islamic Republic. However, that scenario did not unfold. Despite the passing of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and many top generals, Iran's political and security apparatus did not crumble like a house of cards. On the contrary, the system demonstrated a resilience and an ability to function according to pre-designed protocols. The transition of power occurred rapidly, with Mojtaba Khamenei, the son of the late leader, taking over the highest position of power. The survival of the new government in Tehran is a defiant message to the West. This regime is still standing, and more importantly, they are still fighting. Ballistic missiles are still being launched from secret underground silos. UAV fleets continue to target US bases in the Gulf, and the risk of a blockade of the vital Strait of Hormuz remains present. Clearly, completely neutralizing Iran's retaliatory capability is something the US has yet to achieve. And as long as the adversary retains the ability to inflict damage, any claim of a total victory feels incredibly forced. Furthermore, A massive political fuse is threatening to detonate in the heart of Washington, involving a civilian tragedy on the battlefield. During the first week of the war, a heartbreaking event occurred in the Iranian city of Minab, where a school was hit by bombardment, causing tragic civilian casualties. The initial U.S. reaction, including from President Trump, was to shift the blame, alleging it was the result of malfunctioning interceptor missiles from Iran's own air defense system. But now, leaked preliminary investigative reports from the military are pointing to the possibility that the school was indeed hit by coalition fire. The reason cited is that the Air Force used outdated intelligence data, misidentifying the school as part of an Iranian naval base complex. If this information is officially confirmed, it will become a diplomatic and moral disaster for the United States. In war, collateral damage is often unavoidable. But when the victims are hundreds of children at a school, the wave of international outrage becomes an invaluable propaganda weapon handed to Tehran. It would completely undermine the arguments regarding the righteousness of this intervention. And so far, when faced with press questions about the incident, the hesitation and avoidance from the White House only fuel further suspicion. Ladies and gentlemen, moving away from the controversies in Washington, let's turn our gaze toward Tehran to decode the mysteries surrounding the nation's most powerful figure right now, the new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei. The power transition in Iran took place in the most brutal context imaginable, in the eye of the storm of a total war. Mojtaba Khamenei took the seat of supreme leadership immediately after his father perished in the opening airstrikes by the Western coalition. However, what has piqued the curiosity of international intelligence and the public is that since being officially proclaimed, the new leader has almost completely evaporated from the public eye. There have been no live television appearances, no speeches before crowds. Even his first national policy message, calling for revenge and the closure of U.S. military bases, was read by a state television announcer. Why this mysterious disappearance? According to internal sources gathered by Western analysts, the most plausible explanation lies in his health. Reports indicate that Mojtaba Khamenei was also present in the leadership complex in Tehran at the moment the American bombs fell. Although he narrowly survived, he sustained significant physical injuries. There are information streams claiming he was seriously wounded in the legs and arms, with even rumors of broken bones. Naturally, to maintain the morale of the military and the populace, Tehran's propaganda machine has quickly characterized these injuries as very minor, while crafting an image of the new leader as a veteran bearing the glorious scars of the Ramadan war. Thousands of supporters have been mobilized for large-scale rallies, hoisting his portrait across the capital streets, chanting slogans of loyalty and readiness for martyrdom to protect the ruling system. But, ladies and gentlemen, behind the facade of unity, the undercurrents of social friction are still smoldering. In some areas of Tehran, chants protesting Mojtaba's succession have begun to emerge. For an individual to seize ultimate power, a position of absolute political and religious authority over tens of millions of Shia believers globally, while the nation is engulfed in crisis, will inevitably face resistance from internal opposition factions. Mojtaba's disappearance is not merely a health issue. It is a mandatory survival tactic. In the eyes of Western and Israeli intelligence agencies, the new leader is now the high-value target number one on the entire battlefield. Hiding in top-secret underground bunkers is his only way to avoid the tragedy of his predecessor. For decades, Mojtaba has been known as the man in the shadows, a strategic mind operating quietly behind the scenes, building a tight power network with the clerical elite and the Revolutionary Guard. Now, that man in the shadows has been forced into the light to take over the destiny of a nation at a life-or-death moment. Yet he must remain hidden to command the war from deep underground vaults. A leader bearing wounds, protected by the strongest security walls, yet completely invisible to the eyes of the world, he is commanding. At this point, the time for Headpost's in-depth international affairs analysis has come to an end. Our production team would like to send our sincerest and deepest thanks to all our viewers who've continuously accompanied, listened to, and shared multi-dimensional perspectives with us. If you found this information and analysis useful, please empower the channel by hitting the like button, sharing this video with friends and family, and especially don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any critical news developments on the global map in the coming days. We wish you and your family a new day filled with peace, health, and success. Goodbye for now, and we will see you in the next bulletins on Headpost.